Module 5, Report Basics and Essential Design. In this module, we're going to talk about 3 related topics, each followed by a demonstration. I'll start by talking about data regions and specifically applying groups to table reports. And then I'll demonstrate adding groups, managing groups, and adding totals within groups for a table report. Next, I'll talk about expressions and essential programming constructs. We'll use expressions to perform calculations and demonstrate a couple of different ways that we can do conditional formatting with expressions. And then I'll do a demonstration where we'll show a practical application of how expressions may be used in reports. Finally, I'll demonstrate a matrix report, and we'll talk about how matrix reports and table reports are both similar and how matrix reports can be used to meet specific business requirements. I'll wrap up by reviewing and then talking about foundational report items. Essentially, as we peel the layers of the onion and revisit this topic, we'll go a little bit deeper, and then I'll talk a little bit about how headers, footers, and page control are managed within reports. There are 3 data regions within report design: the table, list, and matrix. Now, technically, these are actually using the same object called a tablix, which is really just a contraction of the words table and matrix. In the oldest version of reporting services, there were actually 3 separate objects, which the product team eventually combined together to create the tablix. But when you add a table or a list or a matrix to your report, certain properties are preset and it's set up so that it's optimized for each of these experiences. What's a table? A table is a data region that consumes a data set and then outputs 1 row per record returned from the data set, with those rows grouped together based on row groups that you define. Optionally, you can group records at the detail level, which will also group and aggregate those detail records in summary. A list is a free-form rectangular area that's repeated once per each grouped value. There is only 1 group defined for a list. And a matrix, like a table, has row groups, but it also has column groups. So a table is unique in that you can have 1 or multiple row groups with corresponding headers, footers, and totals. The list has a single row group where the rectangular area of the list, which can contain any combination of report items placed anywhere you want within that rectangular area based on that single row group. Lists are often used to contain other data regions to create compound reports. A matrix, like a table, can contain 1 or more row groups, but it can also contain 1 or more column groups. Therefore, it will grow horizontally based on the number of distinct group values available for the column group. Let's talk specifically about groups in table reports. Tables contain row groups and details. So as you're dragging and dropping fields into the table designer, you're going to define row groups which automatically produce heading cells. Now, if you look at the first graphic in the lower left-hand corner, the one that shows the month, state, province, quantity, and total excluding tax column headers, you'll see something very subtle. The month and the state province are both groups. If you look down in the row groups image down below, you see a row group defined on the month field and then another on the state province field. The quantity and total excluding tax columns are fields that were added to the table, and they actually exist within the details. The subtlety is that there's a double dashed line between those columns within the designer, which separates the row group column headings from the detail column headings. Those cells to the right of that double dashed line typically are used for numeric columns that are aggregated. And you can see that there is an expression that calls the sum function, therefore aggregating the total excluding tax field values at the appropriate group level. List and matrix reports also use groups. A list typically used to repeat multiple report items contained in a group rectangle. A list by itself doesn't really do anything unless there are other report items and data regions contained within the list body that are then repeated for each unique group value. A matrix is similar to a table, but it also contains column groups and it expands horizontally. Now let's take a look at a demonstration, and we'll learn a little bit about groups and totals used in a table.